I'm feeling a little disconnected from my real life. I'm kind of losing touch with the texture of it, you know what I mean? I actually think there's an element of psychosis involved here.
Yes. This is a great sign. It means your nervous system is fully engaging with the game architecture.
eXistenZ is paused!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MovieStrange. I'm here with my friend Uncle Al and Drew Gould. Hi, guys.
Hello.
What's up?
So, as we know, these are my two cult movie favorite guys, and the purpose of this video podcast, is that these guys each bring a movie that they want me to watch. I'm sort of the test subject because I'm not a big cult movie guy, and I'm more the straight man in this situation. So how we do this is these guys each bring a movie, but I get 8 words total, 4 words from each guy. I get them blind, so I don't know who gave them to me. And it's a description of the film. So I make my decision on which movie we're gonna talk about next week by the 4 words that I pick. So in the case of tonight, we're seeing this movie. I'm gonna put up the descriptions first to remind everybody. So these are the 2 descriptions I had. And I ended up picking this one, video game butt plug.
Let me just interject that
Please
you
interject.
don't find out. Yeah, let me interject. You don't find out the movie that you didn't pick. So
That's
it's
correct.
possible that movie will return with different words. And so we're not cutting out any future choices or anything.
That's right. It goes back in the hopper for the next 4 words or whatever.
Right.
And then, some of these shows we're going to do theme shows where each guy we'll figure out a subject, and these guys will bring their favorite movies that relates to whatever that genre is or subject. And, we're playing around a little bit. We're trying to get our feet, figure out what's going on here. It's
Like
all
we
part
could do
of my.
we could do one that's like musical instruments for sex or something like
That's
that.
right. As you watch, you will know why we said that. And it's
That
all
would be
part of
American
my.
Pie and The Devil's Honey.
There you go.
I think
And
that's a
Private
perfect
Parts.
match.
Perfect.
Perfect match. And again, this is all part of my In the Red Productions empire. So it's one of our podcasts. So we'll put these out as soon as we're done with these or something. I don't know. All right. So this is the one I picked. Video game butt plug. And Drew, this was Drew's movie. Drew, what is the film?
The movie is eXistenZ, directed by David Cronenberg from 1999.
eXistenZ.
It's eXistenZ, eXistenZ, from Antenna.
It has a very specific pronunciation.
Excellent. Now, would you like to see a trailer first, or you want to give me a little description? How do you want to handle this?
All I'll say before we watch the trailer is that in 1999, there was a gigantic movie about virtual reality that came out, and it's a great film, and it found a huge audience. It came out on my birthday, actually. It was called The Matrix. But about a month or so before that, a different movie about virtual reality came out. It was this movie, and it's really different.
There's an intimacy involved in playing eXistenZ that is beyond description.
In the not-too-distant future, Allegra Geller has created the ultimate escape.
The possibilities are so great.
This is amazing.
A parallel universe called eXistenZ.
Now I'm warning you. It's going to be a wild ride.
It taps into your deepest emotions.
You're the power source. Your body, your nervous system, your energy.
It unleashes your wildest urges.
I can't help myself.
I'm saying it.
I've got a serious urge to kill someone here.
Do it. It's just a game.
But it's the first genuine threat to reality.
It's a lot more fun when it starts feeling realer than real.
And someone wants it stopped at all costs.
You're worth a lot of money. $5 million for your dead body. Step into my office.
Allegra, we need help.
The only way I can tell if everything's okay is to play eXistenZ with somebody friendly. Are you friendly? Play with me. Something's wrong. Oh, God. up.
What happened?
Just come back here with us.
I think we're still inside the game.
There's a lot of flesh in the movie, a lot of twitching, pulsating, glistening flesh. And let me just say the basic premise of the movie, it begins with essentially a focus group in a church. There's a very famous and notorious game designer in this world. She designs video games. Her name's Allegra Geller. She's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. Jennifer Jason Leigh always brings this sort of interesting, somewhat on edge energy to things, and so she's great in this role. She's great in a lot of things, but this is great casting in general in this movie. And so she's testing out a new game called eXistenZ by Antenna. And there's a guy with her, a publicist named Ted Peichel, played by Jude Law, and he's there to just basically keep an eye on things and run the focus group. And then what happens is one of the people in the focus group attacks her. He shoots her with a gun made of bone and flesh that shoots human teeth. So it got past security. And Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law hit the road, and then the movie's off to the races. And the only other thing I'll say, because I definitely want to hear more about what you guys think of it, and if you have any questions, of course, the way that the games work in this world is it's you have a hole in your back called a bioport, which, let's just get it out of the way now, that's an anus. And there's a cable that's also made of flesh that plugs into your back on one end and then plugs into the game itself, which is a fleshy biopod made of mutant amphibian parts that you have to rub and stroke to play the game. So it's very David Cronenberg. It's very, I don't know that it's body horror. I mean, there's definitely some of it. It's not as like, it's not as crazy as a Dead Ringers or a Videodrome or something like that, but it's, the whole movie is flesh and more flesh and lots of flesh.
And little bumpy things and the game ports moving around, and
yeah, it's very visceral.
It's
little
not
magic buttons you're trying to hit.
It's not the typical flesh though. It's, you know, it's like with the Devil's Honey, let's say, that's just like the human form, whereas this is like non.
Can we just call it fleshy?
Yes.
With fleshy words?
It's flesh. It's like flesh porn, I guess.
Well, it's fleshy and
it's
modulating.
It's
definitely
basically
modulating.
like, it's basically like there's sex in every scene of the movie, but there's no nudity. It's a lot of penetration. There's a lot of licking of holes.
That scene you laughed at in the trailer, where he says it hurts. It always hurts the first time.
Right. No, I mean it's.
Oh, by the way, before we forget, we're definitely going to spoil it, right? We're going to spoil it. So
this movie has beyond the flesh. This movie has a lot of pleasures that come from watching it and watching the movie unfold, and the way that the story is told and the way that it ends. So I do think you should avoid spoilers in this movie. It's more than 20 years old, but it's not. I think it's well regarded now. It did not do well. It's got some bad reviews, but it's definitely to me it's almost ultimate David Cronenberg before he switched to making movies that are also excellent, like History of Violence and Eastern Promises, that are away from the sci-fi stuff that he was doing.
Oh, now let me back up a step. When you say avoid the spoilers, you're not talking about me. You're talking about if somebody is watching this and doesn't want it to get spoiled, go away, come back and watch this later.
Yes, because you've already seen the movie.
Are you asking me not to spoil it?
Well, you've already seen the movie.
Right.
So after this point, please spoil it in whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, thank you, because I have some questions, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, we definitely don't. We're definitely going to talk about it. That's why we warn people. If you only had something that would flash and say spoilers.
If only I had something that would flash and say spoilers, if only. Okay, but I digress. Go ahead.
All right, so you're the clay that we mold in movies. You're the virgin. You're the brand new bioport. So tell us what you thought.
I guess how many Cronenberg films have you seen, Ralph?
I have seen Videodrome, The Fly, History of Violence, Eastern. He did Eastern Promises too. Is that what you just said?
Yes, he did.
Love them all. Okay, love them all. Bug? No, that was William Friedkin.
That's William Friedkin.
I'm sorry. Yep. And you'd have to name more just so I think I've seen. Is that
Rabid?
No. And I think I've seen the twin one.
That's Dead Ringers. Yeah, with Jeremy Irons.
I have it on Laserdisc. I think I saw it a long time ago.
He also did Naked Lunch.
Right. I know he's
Another
got
orifice
this.
movie.
Yep.
He's got this thing about orifices and body horror, and there is so much sex in this movie that got past any, rating stuff, that it's amazing that he got away with. Just the way he framed this thing as a video game and how he shot it and everything. And again, I'm going to say, yes, I've seen some Cronenberg. I had never seen this one. And
Right.
in fairness, I was expecting cultier films, right? So I'm glad we're getting some mainstream cult, and then Uncle Al's way out here somewhere doing his cult, which I know, like the one we just saw last week, the Devil's Honey. That's kind of what I was expecting, but I had never seen this one. And my initial reaction was I knew what it was. I knew it's going to be a game within a game, and there's going to be some kind of Matrix style hook that, like, her hair is curly when they're in the game and it's straight when supposedly they're out of the game, and his hair was different, and all this stuff's going on. And I'm in halfway through the film and I'm going, what's the point of all this? I just, now I'm just obsessing on how many times he's going to show them sticking the port in the thing, and that scene where he kisses it or he licks it and she reacts like, what are you doing? You're so disgusting. And he's like, that's not me, that's my character. Right. So now they're also playing characters and things are getting wacky, and I was like, I'm gone, I'm lost. And that scene that they show at the end where she goes, did I win the game? Is the game over? After she shoots her friend supposedly, that I'm like, I can't. And then that final scene happens, and I won't get into it yet. That's when the film sold me. That's when I was like, that scene at the end made everything else to me. Now it all made sense. Oh, and okay. I actually loved the film. Okay. Great. I was trying to figure out, why don't I like more of this? And then that thing happens at the end and I'm like, holy shit, they got me. And it makes me want to watch it again, because now I know I'm going to find other things, knowing what actually happens, that's going to clue me into what the hell's going on. But great. I was just like, it's going, and the grossest scene is that Chinese food scene where he's eating. That scene was just insane. So, I mean, that's my gut reaction right now. So I'm saying I enjoyed the film. It's not it wasn't as body horror-ish as I thought it was going to be going in, frankly. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's more subtle than that. But the first time I saw that organic game thing, and I see the little bubble moving around and she's flicking it like this, I'm like, oh, Jesus, here we go. This is just going to be.
Yeah, it's not subtle.
No, it's not subtle. Like I said, that scene where she goes, it hurts the first time. Yeah, And of course, William Dafoe's in there, so that ratchets up the weird. And then his whole scene with using that cow thing. Anyway, so I liked it. I actually enjoyed it. And like I said, that end scene is what made me love the rest of the film. It's usually the opposite of that. Usually when you pull a twist like that at the end, you go, oh, Jesus. It ruins the first half of the movie, but this did the opposite for me.
That's really interesting, because this movie, it absorbed me from the beginning. And I just kind of assume, should we just say what the ending is?
Go ahead. I think
the ending is that the game that they're playing, like in this game, there's this violence, and they play this game and they play a game with it. It's all actually within a game. The
truth is, the whole movie was they were playing the game from the start.
Right. Yeah. And so when you come out of the game at the end of the movie, you actually see a focus group sitting in a church, and all of the actors that you have seen in smaller parts, like the Chinese waiter and her friend that does the construction, and the rebel with the flamethrower. They're sorry?
Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston. Yeah. And
is he Doctor Who?
Yeah, he's Doctor Who.
Yeah. I mean, they're all people that were in the game. They all played different parts in the game. So yes, it actually shows you that the whole thing was a game, but it's also it's done very creatively, because there's really no part of the movie that says this isn't real, because the whole movie is set in some other world, and look how different games are and all that kind of stuff. And then they have to play the game, and the game, it's funny, the game inside the movie, the game eXistenZ that they eventually actually play, because she wants to make sure that her busted up game pod is okay. It's a girl game pod. That game feels more like a video game. in terms of you do have certain limits. You have to do certain things when you interact with characters. You have to say the right thing or it'll just repeat, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Gets caught in a loop. The one character just stops because he's caught in a loop, right?
I would say the Chinese restaurant game feels that way, which is the next layer. Also feels like a video game because
well, the whole thing was a video game. Every step they were making put them into the next stage,
can,
right?
Yeah, you can tell, like, just having played video games, you can tell like how non-player characters act.
Exactly.
And like when I guess the one scene I get a little confused about is when he enters the fish factory and he goes and finds her. She acts like a non-player character for a brief moment.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she's okay. So I don't know if that's like a red herring or like what he was trying to say with that.
Well, I think that you see that earlier in the movie because the whole thing Ralph mentioned, like, oh, it's not me licking your bioport, it's my character. And when they have a sex scene that's actually involves human sex instead of just bioports, that's they're sort of saying, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Oh, just go with it. It's the game. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Chinese restaurant scene, you know, the Chinese waiter himself. And of course, that's the other thing about the movie. When they're in the game, everything is very simply labeled. Like the Chinese restaurant literally says Chinese restaurant on the thing. It reminded me of Repo Man with the milk and stuff like that.
If you haven't seen the movie before, there's also the scene with Willem Dafoe. It's the country gas station. Like he says, "Oh, we're going to go to a country."
Yeah. His name is Gas, right?
His name is Gas, right?
His name is Gas.
So like when you see that again, you're clued into that they're in the game already.
Right, you start to see the parallels between the allegedly real world and then the game.
That's the key right there.
But then you have to remember the whole world is new to us. So maybe Allegra Geller names Chinese restaurant in the game because the gas station is named gas station, things like that. Like it's I think that the Chinese restaurant scene is one of the most important scenes as far as what you're talking about with the way it feels like a game. Because he has to eat these disgusting things, which he clearly doesn't enjoy, but he's like, I can't help myself. And even Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is kind of like, whoa,
she's
what
getting
are you
disgusted,
doing?
right.
But of course, what he's doing is part of the story. He's cleaning out he's eating all the flesh off of the mutant amphibian parts in the special, and he's making a gun. And the gun is made of flesh and bone and has human teeth. And oh wait, we've seen that before. That's what she got shot with in the beginning of the movie. So then you're like, well, is the game, because remember earlier in the movie she says something about, oh, the game's really engaged with your nervous system.
Yeah. So
do you pull things out of your own life into the game? It's not really clear what's real and what's not real, but when I watch the movie, I'm kind of like, I just want to go with it. I want to see where it's going to take me.
Well, the one thing that there's the other reoccurring thing is like from the Chinese restaurant, and it comes up later, is, oh, my dog brought me the gun.
Oh, right.
At the very end, the dog brings them the real guns.
Yep.
So is that indicating that, oh yeah, even though there's the line at the very end of the movie, is the fact that the dog brings them the real guns because they're real guns? Does that mean they're not in the game or they are still in the game?
Well, I think that's one of the things that, do you remember they said at the end, they said, well, there's a lot of anti-game sentiment here. And so the people that play the game shape the story, but the people, the Jennifer Jason Leigh and the Jude Law characters are in the focus group at the end of the game, and they're actually there to murder the people who made the game, and they brought guns on a dog. So part of you goes into the game,
right,
which you're playing with other people. I mean, I play video games that there could be one other person, there could be 100 other people, there could be thousands of other people. So that this is 1999. It's very prescient in the way that it shows the way that games can be such a communal thing. It's more intimate than a lot of games that we have, but it's really it's way ahead of its time in a lot of the ways that it tells its story.
Yeah, and it should have. It's funny. On the other podcast, I always talk about I hate backstory. I don't need any information about what motivates somebody, directly. This one, in hindsight, because you don't know it going in, it drops you right in with zero backstory. So you're in the game already before you've even. And the one conceit I love is the way he spells the name out immediately. As soon as the movie starts, he writes the name out on the blackboard. Because you watch this movie, go, what the hell does that name mean?
Right.
And he's spelling explicitly. But you're getting a weird kind of vibe because Immediately she gets shot in the shoulder by the assassin, but nothing. She's able to walk around and they dig it out. There's all this stuff that's keeping you a little bit uneasy. And the payoff, the reason I was obsessing is I'm trying to figure out what the payoff's going to be. Because at that point, you still think you're trying to figure out when reality is and when it's not real. And but already you're not real. He's already thrown you completely. He's mixed you up already. I'm talking about the director.
Yeah.
Dropping you in like that.
That's why it's so jarring when you at the end of the movie, it's revealed Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, you see it in the trailer, unfortunately, but she's saying, did I win the game? Did I win the game? And then suddenly she's wearing what looks like to us some kind of virtual reality headset or something. It looks like, oh, wait a minute. That looks like what I would maybe expect to wear if I was playing a virtual reality game.
Have you seen Strange Days? With
I have, yeah.
Rafe? That's the headset. It reminded me of the headset in that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Well, there was, now that you mentioned the headset, there's a scene in it was the Chinese where she turns and she's got what ended up being what they had on at the end. She had a blue thing on her head. Was that the same?
I mean, it's possible because if you see parallels, there are parallels. See, that brings me to one of my favorite things about this movie. And it's a really simple, it's a filmmaking thing. It's an editing thing. So I know you guys will appreciate it. And it's especially a storytelling thing that really works for me. And that's the transitions. When they say, first of all, when they say we're out of danger for a little while, we're going to go to a hotel, and Jennifer Jason Leigh's insisting, I got to try the game. I got to make sure it's okay. So it's going to be Jude Law's first time. So they literally go to a motel and lay down on a bed and get sweaty and penetrate each other. And so that's not subtle. But when they start playing the game, there's a transition from the hotel room to the video game shop. That is only a couple of shots, but it's literally a blending. Like I'm in the hotel room and then all of a sudden the background is the hotel room set, but there's a stairway and there's people and there's a counter. And there's a couple times like when he pauses the game and he says eXistenZ is paused and then his head falls down on the table, but the table is actually made of the bed. Like that to me, that was so absorbing. I mean, some of that movie felt like dreams that I've had, like really that sort of it's hyper real, but everything is weird, but it makes sense. And those transitions really nailed that for me. I remember when I saw that, because I saw this in the theater, I just was blown away by that, how simple it was.
Yeah, but
I think it's simple, but it's not holding your hand either. Like with Matrix, it holds your hand and literally tells you when they're transitioning into the Matrix. But with this, it's like he kind of just leads you into it.
Well, it's a little trickery, right? Because you think you're walking into, as a movie viewer, you think you're walking into reality. And once all the stuff starts, once they go to the motel and they plug in, you go, okay, now we're going to be bouncing between real life and the game at that point. But he's already done that to you.
Right. That's right.
You're already in the game.
You're already in the game.
As a viewer, you don't know that. So, I mean, he's not holding hands at all. He's actually spun you around 7 times and made you dizzy, and you're trying to that's what I was feeling. I'm like, I can't figure out what I'm supposed to figure out, right? And I was frustrated.
You were actually disoriented and frustrated.
Completely disoriented and frustrated, going, I don't know where this thing's going to end up. How are they going to? And then at the end, when she stands up out in the woods and she just shot him, Jude Law's character,
right?
She just shot her other friend. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I had that clarifying moment when I realized what was going on. I was like, oh shit, that was great.
Wait,
I mean, I've never had that experience when something flips me like that to love the first half of the movie.
Sorry, I just had a thought. Was it Drew?
Yeah.
What was it called? The sporicidal thing she puts in his back. She says it's like a sporicidal plug to cure his infection. That was just the bomb that she inserted, right?
Yeah, I think so, because he got, in the movie, Willem Dafoe is going to give him an illegal bioport because Jude Law's character is very unusual. He doesn't actually have a bioport. It makes him nervous. He doesn't like being penetrated, all that sort of stuff. But what Willem Dafoe gives him is essentially deliberately an infected, damaged bioport because he wants to get the bounty that's out on Jennifer Jason Leigh's character. So it's a betrayal. So she has a game she wants to test with a guy who's never played, who has a bioport that doesn't work because it was given to them as an attack. And so she has to fix it, because that's the other thing. She knows everything about the games that she builds and everything about how all of that world works. And he knows nothing. So he is us. He is the one that's being walked in and saying, whoa, I think that's weird that you would plug something into your back. Everyone in the world does it, but it's not for me. And it's a perfectly normal reaction to say, wait, that's how video games are played. It's weird. And then inside the game, they play games. And then those, instead of being plugged in, it's a little pod like they have in the game that they're playing. And the pod actually disappears into your back like a poorly designed butt plug.
That takes you to the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
Level.
That's the other thing is they jump from scene to scene, which can happen. You can fast travel in a game, all that kind of stuff. And public service, the way that disappears, that's poor butt plug design. You want to have a flange. So
okay. All right. That's a little too much information. No, they don't jump from that. They get into that fish factory where he's chopping heads and he's talking to the guy.
Right, but it's like he
tells him to go to the Chinese restaurant and order the special.
Right, but the way the transitions work inside the game is suddenly I'm here and I'm wearing these clothes.
Right,
and
he doesn't make like, okay. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
That's also right. That's also a transition that's really neat because it's confusing to us and it's confusing to him.
Yeah,
I mean, for all we know, he ran into. Remember, you said Jennifer Jason Leigh acted like a non-player character. Maybe she stepped out of the. She stepped out of the focus group to go to the bathroom or something. I mean, like she's not there, and then suddenly she's there.
And
or
then
maybe
she
she's
catches
still in the
up
last scene, and then she jumps into the scene. Who knows?
Yeah, she catches up, and then she does that thing where she opens her mouth, like she's opening her mouth to show her teeth or her tongue or something. There was something, going on. It was. Al, did you own this one? You do because you. So this is one you on your must-see list or what?
Yeah, I would say this is on my must-see list. I feel like. Not taking away from this movie, but I see a lot of similarities between this and Videodrome.
Absolutely.
There's the whole assassination angle which occurs throughout Videodrome, especially towards the end. You have like similar sounding names, like what is it? The cortical systematics in this movie, and the other one is it's. What is that called? Spectacular Optical Corporation.
Okay.
They're all like I guess when I think about this, like Videodrome is like an analog way of carrying out this assassination, whereas eXistenZ is more of like the digital way that you would do it, I guess. But
I'd buy that. It definitely feels more modern, and to this day feels modern.
Well, it's a little bit like The Game, that Fincher movie with Michael Douglas, where you're watching this whole thing take place, all these people, and then same thing, they come out at the end, and everybody that was in the game is now sitting there having a party about the game they just played. And this takes it to the next level where they're actually the assassins.
The assassins inside the game and the assassins at the end that turns out to be also Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh. They are very religious, zealous, violent. Like they're very devoted in a frightening way to their mission. And yes, I believe, as Uncle Al said, that they are against it for the same reason that the terrorists in the real world at the end are against it, the games, for the same reason that they're against it inside Allegra Geller's game eXistenZ, which is that it takes people away from reality, it distorts reality, and that's really, I mean, because they're so zealous, you basically feel like you're changing reality, and that's something that only God can do. And one of the things that inspired Cronenberg to write this movie was the whole fatwa written against Salman Rushdie, which is why that very outdated idea shows up in the trailer.
Right.
But that actually happening and people being targeted like that is very much still very contemporary and very familiar. And so you created a piece of art, now you must die. I mean, that wasn't new at the time of this movie, and it's certainly not gone away. But that's part of why they're so scary, because there's no way you can escape it. She's like, I'm an artist, this is what I created, and you want to destroy me because of that. So there is there's a real life and death stakes throughout the whole movie. You don't realize that you're rooting for the people who want to kill them.
That's the amazing thing. It's and by the way, our internet problem could have been, I don't know if we're in reality now or if we're.
Oh, that's true.
My hair is a little different than it was when I went in before, so
That was a remarkable transition.
Uncle Al's aspect ratio is a little messed up.
I think we're inside the game now.
Just saying.
That's funny.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to say I was a little. Let me just say, a blanket statement. I'm going to be a little concerned with all these movies I pick because I think they're going to come from all kinds of places.
They are.
But I was pleasantly surprised with my reaction at the end of this film, because like I said, I watched it for an hour and whatever, and I'm going, I know it's going to be and then boom, he got me. And then now I'm thinking about how I first walked into the film, and he's dumping me right in the middle of this thing. I didn't know it. I thought it was brilliant, and Cronenberg is brilliant. I mean, that's all there is to it. And
when you remember the way that the movie eXistenZ, not the game eXistenZ, but the way the movie eXistenZ ends is with one of the people in the real world saying, like, he's literally got guns pointed at him and saying, wait a minute.
Come on. The game's still on?
Are we still in the game? And that should be really corny and silly, but it actually works for me.
No, it was perfect. It was great. I just super enjoyed the film, and I'm going to want to watch it again, but with eyes knowing what's going on, and I think I'm going to pick up a lot more stuff here and there. As always,
I mean, a good movie, it's like meeting a good person. You don't get everything out of it that's wonderful or positive or whatever the first time. So if you watch a movie and you say, I want to watch that again, that's great. That's what I
was very impressed. So how did this do in the theater?
Poorly. It didn't do well.
Yeah,
it didn't do well, which is a shame, but not a surprise, because it's a David Cronenberg movie before David Cronenberg was making movies that were a little more accessible, and it's definitely for its own crowd. And then any momentum it could have gotten was then taken away by The Matrix, which looks like a similar movie, and they're both about virtual reality, but they're not really about the same things at all in a lot of ways.
I don't know if that was the main trailer that Ralph showed. I don't know who that would attract other than Cronenberg fans.
I don't think that was. I think that's in hindsight. I'm looking at that trailer.
That was ridiculous
because they were giving away parts in that trailer that give away the movie.
Look, some movies that they die because the marketing is wrong. Like this one, that marketing was bad. Edge of Tomorrow, we've talked about that. That dreadful marketing. The Iron Giant had terrible trailers. That's a classic film. It does happen. But I'm glad that these movies can find an audience.
Was this before or after The Fly?
This was after. The Fly is what, 86?
Way after. Okay,
yeah,
so
this is 99.
Was The Fly, Videodrome was before Fly though, right?
Yeah, it was like 83, I think. This is actually kind of gentle for body horror from David Cronenberg, frankly.
For a Cronenberg film, that's my hesitation to watch this was
I think this is, except for the surgical scenes on the pods themselves, like it's not gross, it's just more the act of being penetrated in a weird way that might make people feel uncomfortable.
Right.
I mean, he's I mean, it's what it is.
But there's no sucking mugwump jism out of the top of your typewriter like in Naked Lunch. There's no shoving a VHS tape into your belly vagina like in Videodrome. I mean, it's not. It's
subtle. It's subtle.
It's not as much of that, but it is
representation of a virgin having sex for the first time. It's very subtle. Very subtle.
The whole movie's about it's all the stuff of anal sex without any anuses, without any.
And she's the guy. She's being the he's the woman who's
That's also quite ahead of its time too, considering that the way that people consider more comfortably and more honestly the gender spectrums and sexuality spectrums and all these things. It's really, I don't know. David Cronenberg
exactly in a normal film, a non-Cronenberg film would have been the opposite. The game designer would have been a man,
right?
Who's right, and they flipped it. And Jennifer Jason Leigh is brave enough and good enough to pull that off, and it just feels right as far as body horror films go.
I think the one thing that I like about the movie is the idea of like a biological pod versus in the Matrix where it's like you're hardwired in with an electrical, like a metallic port in the back of your head and an electrical system. Whereas this feels like the melding of another biological organism.
Yeah, flesh on flesh, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes more sense because men and women meld during sex, but like you wouldn't necessarily reject the game because maybe they can somehow make a pod that will be accepted by your body in order to jack into the system.
But I just love it. That whole thing was part of the game. That thing wasn't real. None of that was real. That's a game designer.
Yeah, we don't know that though.
100%.
If they're still in the game, we don't know how they jack.
Well, if the end is the end and the kid says, are we still in the game? And they're actually still, okay, you're right. I guess when you fade to black, we could still begin. Then it's mind blowing. It's like, what's the point? But yeah, I don't know. I can only go by when it fades up and it fades out. That's all I can think about.
The end scene with the focus group, that's the most like our real world.
Yeah.
But it's still the same. It's still the same feel. It's just the technology is different.
The acting is still, you know what I mean? It's also, by the way, early Sarah Pauli, right? She plays the woman
not that early, but she's pretty amazing. She's one of my favorite actresses, absolutely.
But all the acting was stilted there too, just to keep you a little bit okay. We're still not quite sure what's happening here. But I thought it was great. I wasn't expecting that, and Drew, the way you say Kelly reacts to this film, I was like, I didn't know what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I mean, I think more people should see it because I think it's a great movie, but I also think part of what makes it a great movie is that it can engender such strong reactions, even for you while you're watching it.
Yeah.
And different kinds of reactions. I think I don't know. I think it's really exciting. It's really exciting storytelling.
Here's the thing. I never gave up on it. Right. So even though I was a little bit like, I'm not quite sure, and then I get to the Chinese food scene and he starts eating that bowl of whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to stick to see what happens now. And then it just happens that I loved it. Well, when the scene comes up at the end, yes, does that simplify it for me? Yes. Does that make it more clear? Absolutely. But for me, that's what I needed to make this thing work.
What if it had different actors? Because we have a lot of big actors. I mean, good actors in it. But like, if they were a bunch of no-name people, would that change it for you? You think?
No. It has more to do with the situation and what I'm watching. No, I don't. Because who knows? I can't separate the actors that are in there now, so I'd have no idea. But the gender reversal, if they had done that, I wonder if that might have made it a little more icky, even more ickier than it turns out to be, that it's actually a little more like, I hate to use the word, but a little more date rapey. But they reversed it, and she's the power person. The female's the power one in this one, and he's the weak one. It kind of changed the dynamic quite a bit.
Well, that's one of the things that we as a society still struggle with, as far as, what does it mean to be strong? What does it mean to be, pushing yourself on someone sexually? Men do it, women do it. Those are totally different things. I'm watching a show on FX now with Kate Mara called A Teacher, and it's about a high school teacher having an affair with one of her high school students, which is wrong and criminal and totally ridiculous. It's also an incredibly sexy show. And
because the teacher is what, male or female?
Female. So if it was the other way, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that South Park episode where Kyle's little brother is being abused by a teacher, and he goes to the police station and he says, my little brother's being abused by his teacher. And they're all like, who's the teacher? What's his name? And he says the name, and it's a woman. And then all the cops suddenly relax and go, nice.
Well,
and that's the real thing. And so it's interesting that you pick that up in this movie, as I've like, you're feeling something, and you're also aware that you're feeling something different about it. That's a neat experience to give.
No. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, finally, when I get all through with it, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Great.
And maybe that's the point, because in the middle of it, I was uncomfortable. And again, he did that. That was done on purpose. You walk into this thing not quite sure your footing, because things are just, and you're expecting it. You're in a movie about altered reality. So now you're going, okay, her hair's a little curlier here, and he's putting you in this position of not quite, and you're already done. He's already got it. He's already, manipulated you to the point where it's useless. But it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So can't say enough. I don't know about the next films we do, but we'll see. Are we ready for the next 4 words from you two?
Now it's time for 2 movies, 4 words, brought by Uncle Al and Drew.
Okay. Let me put the first 4. There's the first 4.
What are those words?
Teenage, murder, uncle, creepy. And then we got grapes, murder, couple, plumber. Oh, this is a tough one.
It's a good choices, I think.
I think so. Teenage, murder, uncle, creepy, grapes, murder, couple, plumber. I'm going to go grapes, murder, couple, plumber.
Yes.
Nice. That's Uncle Al.
Uh-oh. What did I... Oh, God.
I don't know what the movie is either. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a little film called Psychos in Love.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to tell you anything about it. You can just watch it. But
okay.
It is a Vinegar Syndrome release. It's super low budget. And I think it's actually a good movie.
Well, obviously, you brought it to the show here. Grapes, Murder, Couple, Plumber. I guess we'll see, right?
I'm in. I've never seen it. I'm in.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, definitely The Blind. That's the way to do that one. Love it. Okay. So until, what's the name of that movie again? I'm sorry.
Psychos in Love.
Psychos in Love. That'll be the next one we do. How do you guys feel about this?
Feels good. I hope other people feel good and that they like and subscribe and enjoy the episodes to come.
That would be awesome. We'd appreciate that. And I'll see you guys next week. Hey, have a good Thanksgiving, you too.
Thank you.
Good holiday.
By the time people see this, Thanksgiving will be over. So you can just wish us good Thanksgiving for next year.
Right. Should I watch this on Thanksgiving Eve, Al?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Sounds good. All right, guys. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.